about your nutrition counseling program, and I am specifically concerned about my husband's diabetes. So what kind of advice can you give me about nutrition for him?
Well, obviously most people understand that diabetes is prominent, especially in children. It's becoming one of the #1 killers for children, especially type 2 diabetes, which is in nutrition, which means you can control it. And the #1 problem for that is sugar. But what we have a bad problem is when we think of sugar, we think of Cokes, sodas. You know, most people understand that your carbs, such as your bread, rice, pasta, are high carb sugar products, but they don't think about the little things. And I always tell them, for example, the #1 thing that I don't feel is addressed with people who have diabetes is a famous food that everybody eats because it's low cal, it's a great snack food, but popcorn. Popcorn has a high glycemic index, and glycemic means that is sugar that's needed for energy that has to burn quickly. And if that sugar does not burn quickly, it gets stored as fat, or it circulates in our blood system, and what it ends up doing is causing problems where we have now high cholesterol problems. So cholesterol is not really from cholesterol, it is actually coming from sugar. We're having diseased organs, we have memory loss, it actually causes memory loss, and it just starts circulating through there and causing a whole bunch of problems with organs. So we try to teach people about what foods have high glycemic index or a lot of sugar in it. And I always tell people the easiest thing to do is the water test. You know, popcorn, if you put popcorn in a glass of water, it's gonna break down quickly. If you take a piece of bread and you pour water on top of it, it's gonna completely break down. Now, the other one that I used to remember as a kid, and my mother used to always eat carrots for a snack when you're trying to lose weight.
Right.
That's the diet food.
Yeah.
Well, carrots have a really high glycemic index for a food. And people say, well, you can put a carrot in water, it's not going to break down. But what I tell them is if you put a carrot and a Brussels sprout in boiling water, the carrot is going to break down a lot quicker. Or if you put carrots and bake it, it's going to break down. A potato is another example. That used to also be a diet food. If you take a potato and a carrot and boil it in water, the potato is probably going to break down a lot quicker, especially the little red potatoes, than the carrot is. It's not going to get as soft. So these are ways that diabetics can start looking at their food and say, what breaks down quicker, you know, that has more sugar in it, and stay away from that. I typically tell most of my patients, don't shop in the middle of the grocery store. If it's boxed or it's canned, it's not good for you. It has a high salt content, and it has a high sugar content, and it has all those MSGs to preserve that food because it's got to preserve for the box. But if you go on the outside with your fruits and vegetables and your milks and cheeses, you're safer there. So that's kind of how I tell most of my diabetics to shop.
Well, my husband loves popcorn and potatoes. So is there something, I know this sounds crazy, crunchy? Maybe that's the part, the potato chips and popcorn, anything crunchy that he can eat?
Well, let me
that's
tell you,
low
why he likes that. The reason why is the sugar that's in there is a fructose sugar. Now, all fruits and vegetables and all products have a natural sugar in it, a fructose. It has to, it's a plant sugar. But the problem is when it has too much, fructose actually has a chemical in it that has an addictive nature. So when you eat it, it blocks receptors in the brain, and so therefore you keep even more and more, hence the French fries and even the carrots. You'll eat a whole bag of carrots. So what we try to tell patients to do right now is ixnay all sugar products, everything. We want you basically being on a meat, and I'm talking about a green leafy vegetable, no fruits, no breads, nothing. Because what we want to do is we want to get you off that addiction, which is very hard for them. You have to understand it is an addictive chemical. But if you can get them off of it for at least 2 to 3 weeks, it'll start changing their taste buds. Now, people who love the popcorn and the potatoes, there's not really another crunchy food that we can give you. But what we try to tell people is nowadays, if you go to some of these organic supermarkets, they'll do sometimes a dried vegetable that you can eat like a potato chip. The problem with that too is, remember, when they dry it, they're pulling all the good fiber out. That kind of balances that sugar. And so when you dry it, you're really going back to a starch. So there's not much crunchy stuff unless you're looking for a really good cooked vegetable. And one of my favorites is Brussels sprouts. We like to cut Brussels sprouts. We'll sprinkle some olive oil on it. We'll broil it in the oven, add some salt, some rosemary, and then it's got the crunch if you're looking for the crunch, but it's more nutritious. So we try to push people more for that. Or even celery, which nobody likes celery, but you know, it's different. But he is kind of stuck in a situation right there because we try to tell everybody to get off the popcorn and the potatoes.
But now cheese, dairy products?
There
those
are only
okay?
certain dairy products. We don't recommend anything yellow cheese. Yellow
no.
cheese has casein in it. Casein is an addictive property, and it's really not healthy for you because of high amount of salt. So what we recommend are the white cheeses. And if you really think about it, you're not going to eat a whole block of goat cheese. You're not going to eat a whole block of feta, because after a while, it starts bothering your taste buds. You're not going to eat a whole block of brie, because it's so rich. You only want a small amount. So if you're going to eat a cheese, we also rather you go to more of a mozzarella too, or a heavier white cheese like the goat cheese.
Well, that makes me feel better. 'Cause
Or even a blue cheese.
We eat the white cheese so good.
Yeah.
That's good. At
And-
least we're doing something right.
You have to understand when you do white cheese, I forget to tell people, don't do white cheddar cheese. That's the same thing as yellow cheddar cheese. And don't do the white cheese that you see in the Mexican cheese sauce, the queso sauce, because again, that's the same thing as the white cheddar cheese. It has an addictive property. You can't stop eating it. You want to do the real, you're going to do the real rich cheeses, so you don't eat as much, and it's more filling.
So when I'm looking at the label on the cheese, I'm looking for, the bad word is casein, is that what you're
Yeah,
telling
the
me?
queso's in it, so.
So if I see that, I shouldn't get it.
Well, you're going to see it in all cheeses, it's just the amount of it. So
Okay.
you want to just kind of look, you're really going to go for more of the way they process the cheese. So we'll go over that too, on how to determine when you come in for a nutritional program, we're going to go over what cheeses are good, what cheeses are bad.
Now I have to ask for the diabetics, artificial sweeteners or the, what would you recommend on
Well,
artificial
I'm
sweeteners?
not a big fan of aspartame because what it does, if you were going to do a sweetener, I would rather you do something that it actually comes from a plant, like the stevia.
Stevia's okay.
A little goes a long way with that. There's now something called monk fruit, which, it does have calories in it if you're calorie counting, but it's not enough sugar, and it's more of a plant sugar instead of a processed sugar. Cane sugar, it's so refined, you might as well just pump it into your circulation. Versus a plant sugar, it does have a little bit more fiber that has to break it down. So the natural sugars are really better.
I've seen the agave stuff. What is that?
Agave is a
okay
type
or
of a
not?
cactus sugar. It's going to be better than
'Cause
a
that's
white
plant.
granular. Yeah, it's going to be
Okay.
better. If you want your best sugar, which is really better for you and it has nutrients in it, and strange enough is molasses. You want molasses. It's thick. The harder it is for it to come out, the thicker it is. That means the more fiber it has for binding it. Therefore, like honey is a little thick, but molasses is much thicker than honey. And a molasses is really sweet. And I actually have made lemonade for kids using molasses instead of sugar. And they didn't know the difference, and they loved it. And it's actually really good for
Can I
you.
use molasses on
Anything.
like, on pancakes and waffles if I'm making like the whole wheat,
That's right. You can use
high
molasses.
fiber?
Mhm.
Okay.
You can even use it in lemonade. What I do is I just take the molasses and I pour it in my water, in my boiling water, and let it kind of dissolve in there, and then add my lemonade stuff and pour it into a nice pitcher. And it's going to change the color a little bit. You can use molasses in cakes too. So a lot of diabetics, what we try to do too is we try to get off the sugar. So on cakes, we use applesauce in place of the sugar. But I do like molasses a little bit more. So we also tell diabetic patients or people dealing with sugar problems, They have a bad habit of thinking it's a juice, so it's good for you. Juices are no-nos. They're nothing but pure sugar. I don't care if you get organic or not.
Right.
It's
right.
it's a juice. So
Well, thanks. That really helps.
Okay.
That helps. I'll keep all that in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you're welcome.